Welcome to Quest Today's newspaper headlines. I am Ifoma Anuku, and I will be taking you on some of our national dailies to look at major stories making the front cover. And we are going to kick off with the Vanguard newspaper this beautiful morning. Today on Vanguard, we are looking at a story that says Middle East war. No distress calls yet from Nigerians in Iran. This is coming from federal government. And that story is on page 5. Middle East war. No distress calls yet from Nigerians in Iran. All right. A lot of, we already know that there's an ongoing crisis between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. So, federal government of Nigeria is saying no distress call yet from Nigerians in Iran. Away from that story, still on the Vanguard newspaper this morning, Dangote refinery increases petrol price to 874 naira per litre. That's also, it has a link to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, and that story is on page 16. Benin attack. How DSS nabbed suspect over threats to Peter Obi. Benin attack. How DSS nabbed suspect over threats to Peter Obi. Alleged secret bank account. CCB summons FHC. CJ, Justice Tosho, is saying federal government begins implementation of executive order on oil gas revenue. That story is also on Vanguard newspaper this morning. Governors back Tinubu on direct oil revenue remittance to federal accounts, the federation account. Other stories on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. It's concerning El-Rufai, phone tapping equipment claim, a fiction. El-Rufai family fires back at ICPC. I will be Nigeria's first elected female governor, Iyabo Obasanjo says. And other stories concerning the meeting, as we can see, Edu Cardoso meet. You can find out what's going on with all those stories as you pick up a copy of the Vanguard newspaper and read for yourself. Remember that you can use that, you can read that electronically as well. As we move away from Vanguard newspaper, let us take a look at The Nation to see what's going on and the stories that made it to the front cover of The Nation newspaper. And right there, the banner headline says, Executive Order on Remittances, Edu panel swings into action. Okay? Executive Order on Remittances, Edu panel swings into action. Away from that story, Wike accuses Atiku, Amechi, Obi of playing to gallery. Wike accuses Atiku, Amechi, Obi of playing to gallery. Right. Recently, the opposition parties, under the coalition of the opposition, they came together to kick against the Electoral Act. And ever since then, the APC and supporters of APC have been making comments concerning that. And today, we are reading the comment from Wike as he accused Obi, Atiku, Amechi. If you want to find out what the accusation is, you read that story because it's on page 3. U.S., Israel versus Iran, chaos spreads in Middle East. U.S., Israel versus Iran, chaos spreads in Middle East. Another story, Nel Fund shifts students' loan application deadline And also, forensic team exhumes 105 bodies in Yelwata. That's an interesting story, as a matter of fact. APC primaries will be credible with e-register, says Yelwata. Okay, this is quite interesting. APC primaries is going to apply e-register. All right, until I hear from my team what they think about that story. As we move away from that story, we are looking at Disu takes office tomorrow as 23rd IG after council clearance. And finally, on the Nation newspaper this morning, President of Botswana appoints Akinwole II as Vice Chairman of Botswana Power Corporation's Board of Directors. NAV airstrikes kill ISWAP commander. And finally, reps to regulate mobile money operations. All these stories are what we found on the front cover of the Nation newspaper this morning. I'll enjoy you to come with me as we move over to the Nigerian Tribune to also take a look at the stories on the front cover. Nigerian importers to pay more as Middle East crisis affecting shipping. Nigerian importers to pay more as Middle East crisis affects shipping. All gas facilities shut as conflict escalates. And also Brent crude spike to $120 per barrel. This is coming from JP Morgan Chase. More revenue for Nigeria, yet bittersweet situation, experts are saying. So this is quite interesting that when some persons or particular area is experiencing something that is not so good, it's a benefit for other people, as it's looking so bright for Nigeria when it comes to business concerning what is going on in the Middle East. Away from that story, on the Nigerian Tribune, we're also looking at court stops Ondo APC State Congress over disputed ward. This is coming from the crisis that has been ravaging All Progressives Congress in some states, and Ondo is one of them. Court stops Ondo APC State Congress over disputed ward and local government congresses. 6 Osun reps defect to Accord Party. There's still ongoing defection from one party to the other as we prepare and gear up for 2027 general elections. CBN governor puts Nigeria's net reserves at $34.8 billion. That story is on the front cover of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. CBN has placed 34.8 billion naira. Yes, that's Nigeria's net reserve. Federal government begins implementation of Executive Order 9. Direct oil revenue remittances to FARC. These stories are what you will see on the Nigerian Tribune. Concerning health, like we always look forward to Nigerian Tribune, vegetarians show lower risks for 5 cancers in major global study. That's interesting. We shouldn't be playing, or joking with our health. Find out these 5 different kinds of cancer that vegetarians are prone to, lower risks to. That story is on page 5, I guess. Yeah, it's on page 4, I beg your pardon. National Police Council approves Disu's appointment as IGP. Federal government injects 48 billion naira for infrastructure, equipment upgrade in 12 varsities. Dangote targets steel, power, ports in new industry push. This quite interests me because some persons will be asking question if Dangote is the only Nigerian who is a businessman. But I mean, what would you have him do? We have seen his success, his growth when it comes to oil. Why won't he try others? I don't know what your thoughts are about this particular story. So you can pick up a copy of the Nigeria Tribune and read the story for yourself. And finally this morning on the newspaper headlines, as we take a look at the last national daily, which is the Punch. U.S. alerts citizens in Nigeria as Shiite protest rocks Lagos. This is as a result of the crisis going on in the Middle East, Israel, Iran, and the U.S. issue. As the tension brew, U.S. is telling Nigerian citizens to be at alert. You know, recently in some parts of the northern states, Shiite members came out en masse to demonstrate over their leader, Kimani, if I pronounce that name right, who was killed in the U.S., Israel, Iran war. If you look at that story very well, please heighten security after Kanu, Bauchi, Gombe, Yobe demonstrations. I think these are the major parts of the northern area where the demonstration happened. Protesters condemn strikes, vow peaceful rally amid global tensions. Crisis grounds hundreds of Nigerian passengers because of the Middle East situation. Atiku's son resigns from Fintiri's cabinet. I don't think this should come as a surprise, but, you know, I mean, the surprise is free to surprise some persons. But ever since Fintiri defected to All Progressives Congress, it's expected that a lot of changes will emerge. And of course, Atiku belonging to another political party, ADC, it shouldn't be a huge thing that the son will resign. U.S.-based Nigerian jailed 19 years over $4 million romance scam. Fraud. Oh yeah, I understand that sound. Yes. Okay, read up that story to find out what happened. Petrol may hit 1,000 naira per liter as Dangote hikes price. You know, I think it was yesterday when we were talking about how to protect Nigerian citizens. The fact that this is an opportunity for Nigeria pockets as it concerns the crisis going on in the Middle East. Why should Nigerian citizens right inside Nigeria suffer for this kind of a thing? Because 1,000 naira now, away from 800 and something naira that it was, come on. How many persons can afford that? And I think this is going to affect a whole lot, transportation, production, because we are yet to see light. We are yet to see light, yes. Revised executive order. Federal government adjusts oil revenue remittance framework. NNPC to continue crude lifting. That story is also on the Punch newspaper this morning. ICPC lists documents, devices seized from El Rufai's Abuja home. Tinubu to swear in Disu as IG on Wednesday. Okay. Basically, these are the stories we have on the front cover of the Punch newspaper. And that brings us to the end of newspaper headlines this beautiful morning. As I hand you over to my team, gentlemen, Praise Oje and Clement Sampson, they are seated to talk about a few of those stories. Good morning, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you very much, Ifoma, for that
Thank
summary take on the paper headlines this morning. Good morning to you, Samson.
Hello, Praise. Good morning to you, and good morning to you, Ify.
Good
It's a wonderful morning.
Good morning.
Samson kind of look pastoral this morning.
What's
Really?
going on?
For real?
What's going
Oh yeah,
on?
for real.
Yeah, I think one of us.
I'd rather turn the tables around here.
Okay, whatever it is, Samson has to lead. You know, being a pastor is to lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, it's all about the ongoing war, not war per se,
Yeah.
but crisis in the Middle East, Iran, the United States of America, Israel, and now we're hearing that other countries around the Gulf region, in fact, Hezbollah, Lebanon, you know, even Kuwait mistakenly shot down a United States jet yesterday, and well, tensions actually is on another level. But very quickly, it's all about, and we know that this affects oil price right now.
That's
you know,
it.
the Brent crude especially, which is like the benchmark on how crude price is controlled globally.
Yeah.
But then, there's a particular headline on the Vanguard newspaper this morning that says that Nigerians in these countries around the world haven't called for help yet. Do they need to call for help before the federal government know that, you know, they have to help them?
No, they don't need to call for help before the federal government goes to help them. Okay, now the Polish envoy to Nigeria said he commended the federal government for that restraint, according to him, for showing restraint. But I don't think that's a good restraint at this point, even though the Nigerian citizens in those countries haven't called for help. Now, I would want to imagine that the reason why they've not called for help is because, like yesterday, we're talking about Nigerians over there who say even if the federal government sends a plane to them, they would not want to embark on that plane and come back home. But that's not grounds enough for the government to feel complacent and feel like, okay, even if we send one, they're not going to take it, because those of them whom we heard from yesterday or the past number of days talking about how they would rather remain in those in those conflicts
than to come back.
back. That's not the entirety of Nigerians who are there.
Opinion, yes.
Exactly. So you cannot use their opinions to generalize for other than Nigerians.
Yeah, exactly. But I think at this point, the Nigerian government understands, you know, the severity of what is happening in the Middle East. And I think I read a story just early this morning of Nigerian former Super Eagles captain William Troost-Ekong trapped in Qatar.
Yeah.
You know, so there are important personalities there. You know, it's not everyone. You shouldn't just say because some people say that we don't want to come back, then it means that Nigerians don't want to come back. As bad as Nigeria is, you know, in quotes, because of insecurity issues, it doesn't mean that we don't want to come back to our
Exactly.
that is it. That is it.
You know, so talking about important persons, no, it doesn't mean everybody is not important, but Nigerian government shouldn't capitalize on some content creators or people who, well, I call them middle class, in as much as middle class is non-existent anymore in Nigeria. But these people who are saying no matter what, they'd rather stay there, I don't think they know the gravity of what is going on, because other times that we read the story of what's going on in the Middle East, most casualties that were recorded were as a result of debris from the, you know, missiles, not necessarily being shot or killed intentionally. So you never can tell what is going to happen around you. Like Praise said, important people who understood, who traveled the world, who understood what's going on, would want to, you know, to get help.
Because they have families.
Yeah,
like
they have something to protect.
Well, very quickly, these wars also affected the price of you know, petrol in Nigeria. You know, Dangote increased his gantry price just yesterday, and that is one major impact this crisis in the Middle East has brought. You know, of course, we know a lot of people have been talking about the Straits of Hormuz. Is it Hormuz or Hormuz? Whatever. And how about 20 barrels of, was it 20 or more than, pass through that because it connects the Persian Gulf. Iran controls that particular line of business. But then, what Nigerians want is, how does this affect them, right? And Dangote increasing is, you know, the price of PMS. do we see this war taking longer than usual? How do we come out? I don't want to talk about Donald Trump right now. It's a conversation
for another day.
Well, how do we really come out from this crisis so it doesn't, affect the balance of the world?
Praise, this situation, you have to look at it, opportunity and the risk. Okay. I think we spoke a little bit about it yesterday. Because what it means is, normally the budget of a price per barrel was at $70 max.
The budget was,
but we are looking at 100 now because of this crisis. Right. So which will favor Nigeria economy if utilized properly, transparent, I think a whole lot of things that it will solve for us, because this is unexpected. Nobody thought of.
And I think the fact that we even produce, we have a stable refinery, and Dangote has even promised that whatever Nigerians will have available supply. We're not going to run out of supply as far as PMS is concerned, and that's a good news for us. I think just imagine if we are dependent on export products.
Of which we are not entirely off imported
but then we have sufficient supply within us as a nation to cater for the demands of Nigerians. Well, we'll still explore some of these like the former said, positives and negatives of the Middle East war as we draw the curtain on the newspaper review this morning. You can grab a copy and get yourself acquainted as we shift our attention to the big story. And on the big story, we're taking a look at the implications of what Donald Trump is doing in the Middle East as Congress. They are calling to checkmate the powers of Donald Trump, as well as what's trending this morning and the business segment, all in store for you this morning. So stay tuned, and after this break, we'll dive straight into our conversations for this morning.